good storytelling is helping us, even if we don't get a solid answer, explore questions and ideas and themes that come up in life. It's catharsis, it's art, right?
Today's guest is David Spaltro, who is an award-winning independent filmmaker from New York City. He's also my client who I've been working with for over a year, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with him. Please welcome David. Okay, so you are a writer, producer, director, editor. You do everything involved in making films. Is that correct?
One man band. Yeah. Yeah.
And so what first made you want to get into making films?
Um, I always just wanted to tell stories, I think. Like as a kid, I mean, I loved film. It's something when I would go like every weekend with my dad and see a film. Like that's how we kind of like bonded and hung out. And originally I think I wanted to do like comic books because I like to sketch and draw. But it was something I kind of did more for like fun, like a hobby. And like people who like do it professionally, like I don't know that I can necessarily draw if somebody told me draw this here like for a living, and also the amount of hours that somebody like really excel at it. So it was, but storytelling and like creating visually was always something that interested me. And I used to get into like a little bit of trouble as a kid and ended up in the drama department. Like I think they ran out of detentions. So they were like, let's contain his energy with these people. And I had a teacher who, she liked me, and she basically like, they didn't have a lot of funding. So they would get like one of those Samuel French like playbooks and basically to like have me retype it so they could just print out copies for everybody and maybe make some like adjustments. And then she gave me a little wiggle room to like creatively like edit with it. And then by like my last year, she liked my writing so much that I was like writing original stuff. And that was kind of my first step in like seeing like, like a process of like story structure and like creating like that kind of content. And they had a really great media department where I was learning editing and video. And I think those two things kind of like took my love of storytelling. And I was like, okay, film. Like I'd like to maybe film. I love movies. And that's a great way to like find the writing and the creating. And for me, directing, I think kind of became it's like the one department where you get to work with everybody. And I love working with people. Like as a writer, it could be lonely, like you're sitting in a room just typing. Even as an editor, when you're working with other people, you could kind of like, it's just you and the machine sometimes. And I think as a director, I'm talking to the actors, I'm talking to the DP, I'm talking to the makeup people. You're working with all these creative artists who are adding to your vision. And I just, that inspires me, that like helps me learn and grow. And it's just like, that's my favorite part of it, I think. So that's how I ended up, I think, in the film department.
So the creative collaboration was kind of your favorite part of it.
Yeah, it still is. Like, I just
Nice.
love, I mean, I really do like working with people, especially people who are like passionate and hardworking and like get and want to like, like I think a lot of people, they get intimidated by that. Like instead of taking a good idea and like working with somebody like, oh, I had this idea, you've made it better, let's make it better. They
Yeah.
seem like it's like, oh, well, I don't want to take that because it means I don't know what it's like, no, you know what you're doing because they're helping you do what you want to do better. The only
Right.
reason you have vision, like some people say like a director has a vision, and a lot of people take that as an excuse to be like a dictator. You have a vision, you are talking to all these different departments and you want them to add their talents to it, but the only way they stay consistent is if there's that one vision, so they're not going off in different directions. But like you take their idea, you change it, you make it better through that collaborative aspect. So that's what I like about it.
Nice. And so you say here that you're very interested in stories about people and the human condition. So what does that mean to you?
Um, my producer says my genre is like messed up people trying to do better, but
Awesome.
I yeah, I think I think it's again, the same reason that I like collaboration is I think that there's so much about the human condition, questions you have in life, experiences. And for me, storytelling from like its earliest form to like whatever you do now, when it works really well, like whether it's $1 million big budget thing or something really small or a play, I think when it all boils down to people and then those same like 5 stories and questions, and why, the same reason you're interested in doing a podcast and getting to know different aspects of people and what they like, the core of who they are. Good storytelling is helping us, even if we don't get a solid answer, explore questions and ideas and themes that come up in life. It's catharsis, it's art, right? And I think for me, there's so many different stories you can tell now. Like, I mean, there's so many, different things going on, so many different kinds of people, your own life experiences, your own questions. Um, and that to me is interesting. And also like tapping into stuff that maybe you're uncomfortable with and you don't have a solid grounding on, and you exploring it helps you even get a little clearer an answer or an idea, maybe.
Right. Do you find it almost therapeutic?
No, very much so. I think it has to be. I think, but it's very hard
Yeah.
to like, I think the same way, like when you're saying, like when you're working with clients and maybe you're putting them in an uncomfortable position, whether physically or mentally or
Mhm.
both. I think a good artist and a good storyteller and a good filmmaker, it's catharsis, but you have to be willing to go to some uncomfortable or vulnerable. Like put yourself on the page, put yourself on the screen. When it works really well, there is a piece of your soul, without being too cheesy, but literally
Right.
like that comes and it gives it that like that extra bit. And you can't point out like the acting is good, all that stuff's great, the camera work, but there's something intangible there. And that's because you've taken a piece of yourself and put it so people feel that, I think.
So it becomes, like, more alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's not, like, one thing in particular or, like, for right now, say at this moment, what is something that's very interesting to you about the human condition, about or types of people or, um, just what is really making you interested right now?
I think, oddly enough, maybe it's just the state of the world and like various things, everybody just
Mm,
getting older and having a family now, but loneliness in a weird way.
mm,
I feel like so much of what's going on in the world and just in general and people kind of boils down to like feeling not just loneliness, like you're sad or you don't have a relationship or you don't feel like I think it's connection, right? Like I feel
right.
like with all this stuff right now, like we are in some ways more connected through technology than we've ever been, but no more further apart because you can kind of isolate yourself in these bubbles. And the way like I see, like I mean, my daughter's only 17 months, but I have other people who have like a little bit older kids or have seen kids and they're growing up. It's just so like there's just like this disconnection and like lack of social skills and things that like
Yeah.
I think make us who we are. And I think there's a way that we can, we can't get rid of technology. Like we can't pretend it doesn't exist, but I think there's got to be a better way to like integrate it so that it actually makes us better. And then, so for me, the things that have been interesting me just in toying around with like different story ideas or things I'd pursue is not just technology, but just that idea of like at the end of the day, we're all looking to connect. We all want to be
Right.
part of something. We all want to, and I think what's happening is I think people are like isolating themselves in these
Mhm.
islands, create their own little connection kingdom and think they'll have like a million followers or they'll do this or they'll do that,
Mm.
but they don't know anybody. Look, I've when I was younger, I I was very driven with my career and I would kind of like go on the road forever and you give up 3 years of your life and you're just singularly focused on this like one thing.
Mhm.
And forget that you also need to like as much as you need to prioritize and make sacrifices, you need to like have those connections when it's bad because there's like your
Yeah.
whole life is just like you want that. But even when it's works, like when you succeed, if you've killed yourself for 3 years, you've done all this stuff and you come home with your little award and there's nobody there and everybody
Yeah.
else is living, you need these things. So I think just connection is something I'm really interested in right now.
Yeah, it's funny the social media because it we I think like I was thinking about this morning and how there's so many there's a lot of really good things that came out of it, right? I mean, I was thinking of in the instance of like a child or a teenager, say they're in a really bad home situation, but they're but back in the day when there was no social media, they might have thought that that was their fault and that something was wrong with them. But like nowadays, kids can go on Instagram and like they'll see a story about like a narcissist sociopath and be like, "Oh, maybe I'm it's not me, and maybe I'm in a bad situation." Like
Right,
that
right.
there's that available for them. And I think
Yes.
that's probably really helpful for a lot of people in bad situations. And, another that was the one thing I was thinking of in particular, but um I'm sure there's a lot of other situations that it would be helpful for. But then again, the days where you had no phone and you had to go out and play and talk to people like was so great too. So it's like, there's goods and there's bads with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I think
Yeah.
the you know what it is that I think too. It's taught besides of the lack of connection. I think sometimes it's taught us to be less present because we're looking
Yes.
for like you can't just live your life. You're gonna post a photo of it, or you're gonna respond, or like you can't literally leave work because you're always connected, or you can't, you know, or even like for kids, like I think there's definitely like I think the ability, especially for like outcast kids or kids going through something, to maybe find through the
Mhm.
internet communities or things. But now there's also like like if you were a kid and some kid was being bullied or whatever, like you had the respite of like, okay, well, it's at school. School is terrible right now, but I'll be out of school. They can't leave
Right.
it because you go home and it's like someoe's talking about them doing, and
Right.
you hear this. You're like, but you can imagine, like, it's like you can't escape it. And then it's not only you, it's people in other cities are seeing this. And as a little kid,
Yeah.
as an adult, maybe you can like compartmentalize and be like, that's
Yeah.
not, really, it's not the real world. But like for a little kid, it's like, oh my, like I can't even imagine. And so, yeah. And I think everything is a double edged sword, but I think,
Right.
just in general, but I think right now, just in general, I think people are going through this, I don't know, like they're just more disconnected. And I think technology isn't necessarily, I don't think it's even the cause of it. I just think it's sort of
Right.
something that's probably making it worse in some ways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because people stop talking even on the phone, and it's all, like, texting now, and it's like you get you need to be around humans, and you need to be talking to humans, and you can't just be, like, on a computer screen and texting and, like, for someone living by themselves, then, like, they don't talk to anyone if throughout the whole day if that goes on. So, yeah, I agree with you on that one. Are you thinking of, like, writing or creating, a screenplay or something that's around that?
I don't know that I would necessarily do it. So, I mean, like, I don't know if I have a specific idea of anything in that as much as I would probably take those themes. And if there was a piece that I'm working on or something and kind of integrate it into that, like,
Okay.
I don't know that I could write the great, like, oh my God, the AI is going to kill us all. Maybe, but I think it would be more like what I usually do is I kind of like, if there's a question or something that I'm feeling, and it's like, it'll be niggling around in my head for a while,
Mhm.
then it'll come out through the work and not necessarily be like, well, okay, now I'm gonna do this. It's sort of just bleeds its way, I think, into it in some respect.
Okay. That's cool. That's interesting you say that about the AI because how I think about the AI, it's like, I mean, I think a lot about, like, consciousness
Right,
and that,
right.
and I'm like, the AI won't have consciousness. So it's like, how could I don't know if it can come alive and take over but then again, I don't know anything about that type of stuff. So it's way over my head. So maybe they could.
I mean, I think that's their big fear is like everything is programmable, and then when it does somehow
Right.
manage, like then it's like, okay, then we're all gone. But people freak out because in some ways you see it like it's a thing people talk about, and you see it online. But I don't think it's.
Right.
I'm not really worried about it killing us
No,
yet.
I'm not either. There's some great tools with it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so you were because we were working together for over a year, or no, just under a year, and,
Yeah.
you have you're very disciplined, and you have a very good work ethic, like, and so I wanna kinda dive into that and see, like, where that came from, and were you always did you always have a good work ethic? Were you like that as a child?
I
Where did it
think
come
so. I mean, I
from?
definitely had it from early on. I was very fortunate that I had two parents who, they were disciplined, hardworking people, and not always. I mean, sometimes out of necessity, but I think they taught me really important lesson. Without specifically saying it, I think the biggest lesson they taught me was that like you don't have to take any particular job. Like they never pushed me. In some ways they were very hands off and kind of gave me that independence to like figure my own stuff out. But their rule was basically like you don't have to do anything, but if you commit and you decide to do this or you take a job, even don't get taken advantage of, but even if it doesn't work out or it's not the way you think it is, you committed, you finish it, you move on, you learn, but you don't get to whine, you don't get to tap out, you don't get to like it's like you don't have to do it, but if you decide to do it, you don't get to do it half-assed because you don't really want to do it. Just don't do it. And I've taken that with me. And so like I'm careful, I think, in my life about some of the things that I really give myself to, but when I do, it's on. Like I'm 110%. I don't stop.
Mhm.
And maybe that's also why I'm careful because I know if I do, I can't. I worked on things I'm really happy about, and I've worked for somebody that like drove me crazy for a year, but I wouldn't quit. And not even like
Oh,
out of like masochistic thing. It was more like I committed, I'm gonna do this, and you might be like putting up all these little landmines and getting in my way, but I'm gonna honor my commitment, and then we'll move on and never come back to this kind of thing. So
right. Okay. And do you mind talking about what that was? Or
no, I did this. I was after my second feature film. I had been working on my third, and it was going to be a little bit bigger budget. And we were working on it for a year, and we were working with this like casting director, and we were trying to get like a big name attached. And I had put some money that I didn't have at the time into it, and like a lot of things, it was my first time. Like I'd had so much, as hard as it was, I had had so much success that I just kind of like things had never fallen apart before because they were so independent that it was like, if I have a will and a way, it's going to happen. Right. And this was
right.
the first time where like I was playing outside my comfort zone with bigger money, trying to raise a bigger money, do it a certain way. And it was working well, but like even the best situations, it just kind of fell apart at the end.
Mhm.
And I was kind of like, oh man, what do I do? I've just spent a year of my life doing this and I've got nothing and I'm in a hole. And I creatively found my way towards this older this older Indian businessman who at 74 decided he had seen the Blair Witch like a couple years
Okay.
before, and he said, "Oh, they made this film for X amount of money, and it made this $150 million." And he was obsessed with making a low budget horror film that would replicate that success, which is like a wing and a prayer, even if you do something good. But his philosophy when I took the meeting with him was kind of like it made sense because he's like, I'm 74, I'm not going to spend. I have $50,000 and I want to make this movie. It's $50,000 horror movie, and I get final say, but you can kind of do whatever you want. And it was like rather than spend it at going to film school in his late 70s, he was like, I will shadow somebody who's done this and learn by being a part of it and get this Blair Witch project. So I said, that's cool. Like I can work with that. And all the things I thought working for somebody at that time, like it could be like a creative battle or whatever it
Mhm.
was not at all the problem. This was somebody like, if I don't know if you've ever met, maybe worked with somebody who like, they don't know what they want, but they know with certainty, if that
Oh,
makes sense,
yes.
where it's
Yeah.
kind of like, like he would, like he wanted to learn and at the same time thought he knew things, but what he knew was so like, again, like even his whole premise of like, say I made this very low budget film
Yeah.
and we somehow managed to make, like Marvel Avengers money.
Yeah.
Nobody walked. The way the business works is like nobody walks up to your house with like a giant check for
Right.
$150 million. And he's there. Well, he did. I don't think he like, and you couldn't explain it. And everything I was doing, but we ended up making this movie in 12 days. And then I met the guy in March of 2014. He made my life hell and just he got in the way of all the things that make a film hard, especially at that budget, especially at that schedule. He was like working with like a cinder block on your back. But I got it done. I met him in March 2014 and I handed him a finished film in May of 2015. And I
Okay.
don't think he even understood I don't think he could comprehend what that was to do that and to come out with what it
Right.
was. But it was something that like completely my commitment and my work ethic to get it done got it done, but I think I paid the price and that it burned me out so bad. I was like so out of shape and so mentally like just destroyed by that whole experience, I think.
That sounds very taxing. Yes. I think we discussed that a little bit before. You were
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sharing that with me before. Yeah. I can see how that would be very difficult. And so have you always been into fitness? Like what in bodybuilding or like lifting weights, building up your body, let's put it that way. Have you always been
Kinda. I
into
mean,
that?
my father was more of a runner, but when I was a little kid, he had I had this like vivid memory of like seeing him with these like janky like 80s like iron uh like 40 like a 40-pound dumbbell that he'd just do curls. And I thought that was like I'd see him, he's like, "Rah, rah, rah." And I remember and he's like a wiry guy, like fit guy, but not a big guy by any comparison. And
Yeah.
I remember like I see my daughter doing this sometimes with something like heavy and like doing that like front squat and I would try to pick it up and I couldn't. And I thought, oh, and so like my first, like, I think I like doing curls more than anything because I have this like sense memory of like my first weight was just doing that. And
Okay.
like, so that, I mean, and just going to the gym was like, I used to play sports. I'd work construction. A lot of any fitness I did was like sort of a little bit genetics, a little bit youth, and a little bit like just doing normal physical stuff. And I'd run a lot. It was
Yeah.
only like in college that I started like actively going to the gym, still not knowing like what I was really doing. Like, and I need, like,
Mhm.
I'd do pull-ups and I was like, oh, you press and like you do.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of like I had befriended these like giant like Russian Ukrainian guys at this like old gym, and like more plates and this, and torture you, and but it was but it was fun, and I learned like there were trainers that like took me under the wing and like would show me stuff, and so like everything I kind of did pretty much my whole life until like you're the first person I ever worked with in this kind of way in any like outside of maybe like doing a one-off training session with somebody.
Mhm.
Um, was sort of just like self-learned and like trial and error, and like no real like goals ever before, like maybe only in the last couple, like getting more like specific about like, oh, okay, I want to do this, so this is going to require this kind of diet, or this is going to require this kind of like I'm going to hit this body part, this that kind of thing. It was just like go
Right.
do full body, kind of thing.
So it wasn't very structured before.
No, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I developed like a routine, but I would say it was probably like it worked just because I worked really hard at it as opposed to
Yeah.
like it being the most efficient kind of thing.
Right. Yes. Because you have a very strong work ethic. So that could get you far.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
just just in
Well,
sense
these
of
are like
like going like going as hard as possible, not necessarily in the way that's best for your body, but it will get you it'll get you somewhere, you know?
and I think too, like, if someone's fortunate enough to work with somebody as talented as you, like really knows their stuff, you could give them the best diet and game plan, but if they don't show up and do it or they don't eat
Oh
it,
yeah.
it don't matter versus somebody who maybe would have a much better plan if they were working with somebody like you that could kind of like temper and structure it. But like if they're just busting their ass, they're going to see results probably before the person who isn't doing what you're telling them to do.
Oh
But it's not
yeah.
necessarily, yeah,
100%. Well, that's one of the things that's so great about working with you is because you are very good at communicating what's going on. You know, some people have a hard time with that. They're like, I don't know if they feel shy. I don't know if they feel like they're failing or something, but they just don't, they have a hard time communicating if something's not working or if they're having a hard time with something. But you're very good at communicating and you put your health like right at number one. You know, you're always getting your blood work done and you're taking care of all the things that are really important. And I wish more people knew that. Like, it's really important to get your blood work done often and to make sure that everything's working properly. And so
yeah,
it's really great working with you because, and you have an incredible work ethic. So you follow through and do that. And then if something needs to be changed or whatever, you let me know. And so we have this good communication back and forth and makes it a lot easier for me to help you because it's with some people it's more difficult because I don't get necessarily the right information.
yeah, yeah. And I think
Mhm.
that's one of the things I was always trying to like, when I decided to work with you, which was like a great decision, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't like it's like I'm paying you to do something, but I don't want to waste your time. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's like again, it's
Mhm.
the same way you make a commitment to somebody. If I'm telling you, okay, for a year, I'm committing myself to you, and if you tell me, run through the wall, which you've never done, thankfully, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna try, right? Like see me at the hospital, like whatever you tell me to do. Otherwise,
Mhm.
what is if like how will I know if I can do something or if something is going to work or something can change
So
if even when those thoughts or even when those like if you have like bad habits or you're like, oh, will she really know if I throw in this extra set or will she really know if I,
right.
you probably will, like
Yeah.
or I'll know and then whatever you're telling me to do might be screwed up because don't have the right, so it's like what's the point of doing it?
Well, that's the thing is like what's the point of doing it if you're not going to there needs to be good communication and stuff because I'm here to help you. And,
Yeah.
and so that's why it's been really great because there's never been any of that. But unfortunately, with some people, I found that like I have to like drag it out of them. Like, I'm not going to be mad. I'm just trying to help you, but,
Yeah. You're
no, it's
scary.
been,
You're terrible. So, yeah.
yeah, I mean, know I'm a monster, but, it's been great because and then it's also been really helpful because you post your gym photos, and so I can see what's going on, like, outside of
Yeah.
the progress photos. But, I wanted to ask you though, what has been the most challenging part of working together over the last almost year?
I think believe it or not, I think the food sometimes. I think
Oh,
and it's not even like I'm not really a junk food eater. Like I can have a sweet tooth and I can like have a little something. I'm not like even at my most strict because for a while I was extremely strict because I was I like right when COVID hit. all the gyms had closed.
Right.
And I had like it's like a sizable physique, but I was not lean. I wasn't like, but I was super healthy and whatever. And I had started jogging. So I was like, well, I don't, I need to do something. And I had just come from like a little bit of a back injury, and I was running, and my mileage was going back up, but I wasn't doing, I mean, I was trying to do some push-ups, but I had, at the time you couldn't even get weights because like getting
Right.
anything, like, so it was like, I couldn't even start to build like a home gym, which I eventually did. Um, it was like I was running a lot, and my cardio was great, but like I was losing a lot of lean muscle that I didn't
Mhm.
even know. I was like, oh, well, I'm losing weight. Look, I'm like, but I was losing probably more muscle or as much muscle as I was losing fat. And so my metabolism, like then it got cold. So then I couldn't run as much,
Right.
and then so I decided, okay, so I had started building a home gym, and I took the time during COVID because I was working from home and things still weren't like picked back up. That if I have this time and I have this home gym, I don't have to worry about like time at like some other gym or schedule, or if it's crowded. I've got like just free weights and the bench, and I'm going to do a lot of cardio, and I'm going to do like a very specific diet where I cut my calories, and I was like focused on protein, and I had some, but like I didn't really know what I was doing. Like you're a you'd probably look at it and be like, like that. But I wanted to just see if I could do something and stick with it. And I was getting like crazy
Mhm.
good results. Probably I went from like maybe like I was like an out of shape like 230 to like 190 in like 4 or 5
Oh,
months.
wow.
And I maintained some muscle too. And then from that time, like all my hormones started crashing, and like that
Oh,
was some
yeah.
genetics. Some of it also is like, again, like I've never competed. I've never been in the fitness world or
Mhm.
bodybuilding. It was only after I did this thing that I started reading about how you see these fantastic physiques that are like, they're like, I would never hit that kind of digit of body fat, but like they're extremely weak and tired, dehydrated, and like could be probably be blown over, by a gust of wind. So it looks great, but it's not necessarily something you can either maintain or be healthy at, and also takes a toll on you that you have to know with a professional like someone like yourself or somebody else to get out of that hole. And I didn't know how to get out of that hole, and I was
Mhm.
older, and all the things I used to do that I got away with because of either genetics or youth, like I could still bust my ass, but nothing was changing, and everything was like kind of like it would like do go really well, and then it would kind of like fall apart sort of thing.
Right.
And I didn't know how to, I never knew like I think when I first approached you, I was interested in reverse dieting because
Yes.
times that I tried that, like changing, like not like going from like A to B or like extremes, but like even like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to incorporate a little bit more calories and carbs and all this, and I'm going to
Yes.
like tone down the cardio here or there. It would go like bananas, or it was probably working. I couldn't take the flip side of the change and ride it out, and I would go back
Right.
too soon. And I didn't know how to address that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing is like it is well, for one, if you don't know, you don't know, right? You only you only know what you know. Um, so there's that, whereas you'd have no idea. I mean, it does seem logical if to switch over to doing something, but it's actually better to make gradual steps and but it really depends. I know when we first started working together, I was very concerned because you were eating so low calories and doing so much cardio, and I was concerned about your nervous system because
Yeah.
like, I was like, your nervous system is probably fried right now."
Oh,
So
yeah, and I was a new dad and all, yeah, a
yeah,
bunch of stuff.
exactly. We need to, like, calm down your nervous system. So and also you needed more calories, you needed less cardio, but I could see how you would naturally think to get to the point where you were at, though. Like, it wasn't like you were just trying to progress, and you kept doing things to try to progress. So it's not like you were doing anything stupid. You were doing, I think, what a lot of people do is just cutting back because you plateau, and then they think,
Sure.
"Oh, you know what? Let's cut this," and thinking you need to keep doing that until but when that but that's not really what, you need to do because you end up burning yourself out. So, so we ended up increasing your carbohydrates and lowering your cardio by, like, a lot. I think it was, like,
No,
75% or
yeah, I don't,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, 75% more carbs and 75% less cardio. And, and your body just started responding, like, right away. It was
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was, yeah, I mean, you sent me the, like, it hasn't been quite a year yet, but you sent me some photos that I'd even looked at, and like, it's a huge transition. And I think, I think having somebody you trust that can give you the not just the information and the support
Mhm.
as you plateau or tweak, which is the benefit of having somebody like you. But I think you just can't, I think on your other podcast you were talking about, even for yourself, like you would need someone to visually help you sometimes, because it's
Yeah.
just you can't honestly, one, I don't feel like I have the reference point to really see what's going on, especially
Mhm.
now. I think you also, I don't trust it as much as I would say trust somebody who I trust. And I'm like, okay, I don't see that, but if you say it, then that's what it is,
Right.
kind of thing.
Well, it is really hard to see yourself clearly. I know, speaking from my own experience and from working with people and friends that I know, like, um, because this is the thing is like, can anybody, even just like outside of say physique, can anyone really see themselves clearly? Because when we're looking at ourselves through like our own insecurities and our own,
Well,
you know, history, and so people tend to either be their most people, especially that are really involved in fitness, I find are their worst critic, and they see something that's not there. Um, but then I've met some people that think that see like way. I'm like, no, you don't look that good. Like, we got
yeah,
some
you
work
can
to
like,
do. Yeah, it's kind of like an
yeah.
opposite. Um, but at least they're confident. So, I mean, yeah, it is difficult to tell on your own, but it's also one of those things that like you see yourself every day in the mirror. And actually, this is a question I want to ask you is like, will you be having a day where you'll look at yourself in the mirror and you'll think, oh, I'm looking really good. And then later on in that day, you'll think, oh, I look terrible. Like, has that ever
Like
happened to you?
5 minutes later. Like, I think
Okay, great.
you,
Yeah.
I was listening to
Not
a
great for
fitness.
you, but like actually great because I can
No,
relate.
but I think it's everybody. And I think particularly, again, I've never competed, but I know from what I've read and what I've seen, I would imagine, and maybe you can talk about this having done it and worked in that industry, but like, you know, I, I don't think it's like an unhealthy thing, but I think that there's a real easy way when you're doing such a specific kind of diet and training to like have some kind of body dysmorphia or some kind of like extreme control thing. Or the guy, the person that I was listening to, they basically were saying that once you get this physique that you like, you set up your photo shoot or you go that time on stage and
Mhm.
you hit that's your peak. But you can't look like that. The second you have a glass of water, even or something like that, it's not going to look. You'll look fantastic, but like you're not going to look like that 24/7. Or like you watch people in movies or photo shoots, and I work in this industry, so I've seen it, and how much smoke and
Mhm.
mirrors of like Chris Hemsworth is in fantastic shape, but when you see him take his shirt off with the abs, he's just done a bunch of push-ups. The coach on set training him is
Right.
giving him a little bit of
He's
carbs
all
right
pumped
before.
up.
Right. And it's awesome because you like part of the sport and also part of it is that idea of like body manipulation. But I think you
Yes.
have, and I think in human nature, it's extremely hard to do, but I think have that kind of ability to not let yourself believe the lie and then I think for me, the hardest part, like even when I was trying to do something like a reverse diet on my own, or
Mhm.
yeah, I'm so burned out and I can't get back to where I was. Let me try. You don't want to let go of this thing because you're like, I just killed myself to
Yeah.
get to.
Mhm.
So I could just I don't want to. I don't even want to go any further. But can I? I can hold this, right? And like
Right.
not 24/7 and not all the time. And I think even for me, that's still a struggle because you do have some days where you're like, I'm killing myself and I don't feel like I look like I work out at all. Or you have some days where you're like, oh, it's, the right lighting or the right, you get some blood
Yeah.
flow or something like that. I think the best way that I've been able to break out of that is I will never like the way that I look in our check-in photos because I've just woken up after like, you're in like terrible lighting. Right now it's winter, so I'm pale as a ghost. Like it's it's just a basic, like this is what it is, untouched. And it's important, but it's also like then a few hours later, you have some food in you, you have some workout, and it's a completely
Oh, yeah, you'll
different
look
thing. And
better.
I but I mean, I think you have to, I think if you can start seeing that more, then you're not so
Mhm.
24/7. And I think that's a healthier way to do it. Cause like if you can't physically do the exercise or you're not in a healthy place, that is what you should be worried about. Not so much
Yeah.
like, am I having my photo shoot, which I'm not having at all, or like
Yeah.
tomorrow. That's.
Well, that's the thing is that I mean, you want strength, health, those should be the number one, right? And, you can have a great physique within that. And, um, but you're right. And you're not always going to look a certain way. And for a photo shoot or say, and for more extreme for a competition, but we'll just say photo shoot for, now, like people do like they do work it up so they peak at that time. You carb up before then, you kind of cut down on water before then, and like everything is built around your whole however long you've been training for. Like say you're spending 3 months doing that, then you're doing all of this stuff so you look your best on that day. And then you get these photos and you look at them and it's like, oh wow, I look amazing. But you're the next day you might be sort of flat or you might be a little watery and you do look different. I mean, to other people, you probably don't look that much different, but to yourself, especially, it feels like a huge difference and it can be a real mind fuck for people and really hard because, like I remember when I was competing and it was like in the middle of it, let's say. I did my first physique show or the first time I got like pretty lean, where you like can see striations in my glutes. And so I was uh
Right.
I was happy with how I looked at that show. But the day before the show I wasn't. The day before the show I looked in the mirror and I had a meltdown. I thought I was fat. And I called my coach and I was like, "Oh my god." Like I didn't think I was just like not in shape. I thought I was like actually fat. Like I was
Right, right, right.
freaking out. Like your mind goes crazy. Um and for me it did anyways. I'm a little bit of a drama queen, but like so she's like, just don't look at yourself. I'm like, okay, fine. And then I did the show. The show was fun. It was great. I was really happy and I was proud with how I looked. And then, a week I went back to the gym like 2 days later. I stayed eating clean. I think I had one cheat meal and then went back to eating clean. But because everything had been for that one day, for that one time on stage, that's what I was training for. And now it's like, so I looked a little bit softer. I looked a little like smaller, I looked different. And even though my weight was exactly the same as when I was competing, but my body looks a little bit different. And people would say that to me, like, you look quite different. And that really messed with my head. And then for like the next year, I think I was trying so hard to just stay in that shape, but you can't. It's for one, it is really unhealthy, like to stay at a really low body fat especially for a woman. But for anyone to stay at a super low body fat for too long is very unhealthy. And it was making me crazy because it's like, and so I ended up like more deteriorating my body almost because you're just trying to stay in this spot and your body can't stay there for too long. Like you need to go through phases. You need to go through phases where you're building it up and then leaning down, and it's really important for getting a better physique and for improving. You need to go through those phases of maybe you're uncomfortable because you're all carved up and your weight's up and you're holding water and you know for me that's the most uncomfortable. But like
Sure.
I love
Yeah.
dieting. I love it. But
That's it.
being like but the improvement phases were always so difficult for me. So um yeah, it's really important to do that though if you want to make improvements to your body and to maintain your health.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the like I think that's what I think is also great about working with you too is the idea of you talk a lot about goals. Like what are your like
Mhm.
when we first worked together, you were like, what's your goal? And I didn't like that's the thing. I think throughout my entire experience doing stuff like this, because I kind of stumbled into it, it was just something that like I think for me, I think what I've always gravitated towards more than like I always wanted to like do bodybuilding or I wanted to like lift heavy things or something. I think it's also part of that work ethic and structure. Like so much of my industry is
Yes.
like, you can work for 3 years and the film doesn't happen or it doesn't perform or
Right.
whatever, right? Or you have to just go do another one. And something about the gym and the idea of like, okay, like I go every day and, you know, 3 miles is 3 miles, 100 pounds is 100 pounds.
Right.
And I think the biggest like like mini crisis that I had like before I started working with you was that like, okay, but that's not working anymore. You know what I mean? Because I had dug myself
Yeah.
into certain kind of holes unintentionally, not knowing. It was like, okay, so not even this can I like 1 + 1 = 2 kind of thing. Like it doesn't work like that. It
Mhm.
does. It's you have to again, it's like you have to know more and know how to do it and also set specific goals because I never did that. Like the closest thing to a specific goal I think I ever had was like I was like, I'm gonna try to get in the best shape I've been in since I was like 18. Not even really just defining what that was. I just would see myself progressing in certain ways and be like beyond where I thought I could go because I never had the
Right.
time or the drive to do it. And then I just wanted to keep that. I was like, I
Yeah.
did this, and it not fluctuate or like. And then I lost. I think in some ways you lose a little bit of the joy of it too because it becomes more of a mission. And I've had to check myself. That same drive and work ethic, like in my work, has
Mhm.
been important as I've gotten older and I have a wife and I have a child and all these things. Like it's about having that drive, but not shortchanging anything else and
Right.
destroying your in the process. And I think that temperance I found for my career while still maintaining that drive, hopefully, is the same kind of thing I'm trying to do with fitness
Mhm.
amazing help. Is get to that place where it becomes about goals and fun, and it's a
Yeah.
life. You know, it's not like an obsession or a or like a way too minute thing that I'm trying to do that
Right.
can't be done. You know,
Well, it needs to fit work into your lifestyle so it's manageable. And so it's like, yeah, so it's fun. So you enjoy it. It should be like, unless you're working towards a specific goal or you have something you want to do, then it needs to be able to structurally fit. But
sure.
like how do you find it now with the how your training is? Like do you find it that it's a good balance with life or is it a little bit too much right now?
It's fine. I mean, I think life just gets hectic in ways that you
Yes.
can't always. It's just in general. But in terms of like, I mean, it's certainly with the kind of crazy schedule I have now with work and then child and trying to balance it all and be here.
Mhm.
It definitely is a lot easier to manage, say, your schedule
Mhm.
than it is to do what I was probably doing and to
Right.
keep up in the way that I was trying to keep up because I could get through it because I am like a robot sometimes and like
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
which is great, but like I'll be Ash and that will be that. And I didn't want
Mhm.
that either. Because again, I wouldn't be able to stop myself. I'd just be like, I'm gonna like I've committed to doing this and I can do this. And like, yeah, it sucks or it hurts or it's but I'm gonna do it. And I would do it and I would do
Yeah.
the kid thing. The but I was gonna be Ash. So I think it's a lot easier to balance it. Again, I think it to me, the biggest struggles is just it's that mindset of like I told you when we first started working together, I said like your accountability is never going to be like to make me go do a workout or to like
Yeah.
it's going to be more keeping me from going too hard or being like it's
Yes.
okay. And that's kind of what it's been. I think the back and forth is like really you kind of being like it's okay, like
Yeah.
do this or like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Totally, I understand because 'cause I'm the same way, like, if I was when I was training for competitions, it's like I would do 2 hours of cardio a day and train an hour a day, and I would do anything, like, my coach would be like, "This is what you're doing, do it," like, eat no I did so and I worked with some people that put me on really unhealthy things where I was, like, eating, like, 1,000 calories a day, doing 2 hours of cardio a day, like, 0 carbs for, like, 7 days in a row, but, it was it was a learning experience. I was younger, so, um, I learned a lot from it, but I'm the same way. It's like, okay, I can go until my leg's breaking off. Like, if my leg's broken off, I'll be like, "Okay, well, can you get it back on so I can go back to the gym? I
biggest
have,
thing.
like, to finish it." So I understand your mentality of, like, you will go and it'll almost be like yeah, you'll drive yourself into the ground if you had a bad plan. So, I
Right,
saw
right,
that with, just what you were saying, because it's a lot of these things seem counterintuitive, it's like, sometimes the best thing you can do is take a week off, increase your carbs, and just let your nervous system, relax, and that's gonna actually get you further ahead and have your cortisol come down and have your body start responding and you'll actually look leaner instead of, "Okay, I need to add more cardio, cut down the carbs, and,
right.
go harder." You actually need to, do the opposite of that, which isn't how our brains think. So, how would you have known?
I don't know. And I think it's just that idea of like you want it. It could be. I think it can be addictive too because there are like if you, for people who are just starting out, I think if they can get past the even if they don't passionately love exercise, weightlifting, whatever sport or
Yeah.
enter thing, there are endorphins where that the first time I think people, if you do it enough times and get through the pain or the frustration of it, when you've like hit that last rep or gone to like true failure, or you've hit that mile you never thought you'd hit, there are those
Hmm.
you're exhausted, whatever, but there's this rush of like your body's compensating for the fact that you're dying with these
Yeah.
endorphins thing, and that felt like that can get a little like in a drug in a way. Like you can get really like, and you're sometimes you're more than doing a if you don't have a structured plan or you don't have yourself in check
Mhm.
and have the work ethic to do it, you might just be chasing that. Or some people chase the pump or they chase the like, and it's like I think that can get addictive too. That feeling that you get when you do something that you should be able to do, or like that is incredibly hard to do, and how your
Right.
body compensates for it.
I think it's good to push your body and like keep pushing it. And especially as we get older, it's like, because you naturally lose muscle mass, you naturally lose bone density. And this way you just, it's so healthy and it's going to keep I mean, just for basic things, like, it will help, like, for walking when you're older, when like, for standing up, like, one of the biggest causes of death for elderly is, like, because their legs are so weak and they fall down and they can't get up or, like, can't and so having strong legs is going to increase your longevity, you know?
Yeah,
So
and I think it doesn't have to be so extreme. Like I think people like they get nervous to approach it because they say like, if someone says working with you and maybe they're a complete beginner, they might look at your photos or look at people you coach and work and be like, well, I can't
Mhm,
do that. I don't do that. And it's not about like if you're completely, I think, not physically fit or you're not doing anything
mhm.
and you change your life or just get healthy for important reasons, just walk. Like do some
Yeah,
like do something. Like I had a relative like right before my wife gave birth, we were walking through the city and she's pregnant. He's got two kids and he's a little on the heavy side and a little out of shape. And I said to him, I said, man, like you don't have to do like at a time I'm being ridiculous. And I'm like, but you don't, no, I would never expect you to even attempt to try to do anything I'm doing.
right,
Just 10 minutes a day after your lunch, just go take a walk, go do
right,
anything, go play with your kid, go do something cause that's the same thing. Like whether I go to some like arbitrary place and pick up kettlebells or I just take my 22-pound daughter and do this
right.
for like 10 minutes, it's the same thing. But to be able to do that, I should have some kind of training to be able to do that before I like,
Yeah.
get hurt.
Yeah, it's the little things add up a lot, like taking the stairs, walking places, all those little things that people think, "Oh, it's not a big deal." They add up to become a huge deal, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. Did you so as a child, did you play any sports as a child?
Yeah, I played a little football, a little hockey, a little baseball. I was never, I don't even like watch a ton of sports. Like I like to play, so I always enjoyed that and a little bit of competition. But sports, specific sports, or even watching specific sports besides maybe like hockey, was not something that I think I gravitated towards. I think I was just more of a physical person. Like I like to go on adventure, like whatever that was as a kid, like that kind of thing.
Okay. And what did an adventure look like for you?
Oh gosh, I don't know what I'm allowed to say here.
You can
No,
say
I mean,
anything.
yeah, no, who's listening?
Okay,
No, I mean,
right.
I would get like as a kid, like I mean, like listen, when I was younger, especially like where I grew up was a little bit more scrappy. Like you'd brawl or you'd like
Oh, yeah.
run around, like just do like I mean, like not like nothing too dark or anything like that, but just I was a very energetic, I think, creative kid, and if there was any home strife or any like random thing going on, I think the two outlets I had was like some kind of creative mischief, whatever that was. Like it was like we're just gonna jump over and run and like, into this lot, or we're gonna do something,
Yeah,
or like I'm gonna go sketch and draw and create like a comic book. Like things like those two, like it was a way for me to work out, I think, whatever was going on in my life and at the same time
right,
get creative energy out. And
right.
I didn't have the structure or the containment yet to really have that benefit me as much as it was like all over the place kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. That makes total sense. Um, and then did you have a lot of that, like, that when you were a child going on? Like, a lot of conflicts that you were trying to avoid?
I mean, my parents were very hardworking, strong people. They split up when I was 9, and they were probably two people that should never have been together. And I think for a long time too, there was this weird thing about myself where I was like, I am the product of two people that like did not get like, and what does that mean? Like, I shouldn't like, not like that I shouldn't exist, but like what, like how do I, if I'm like oil and water, right? Like how do I uh, and they were working, like, they were young and at the time were like trying to figure out their own life. They were very young when they had me trying to figure out their lives. Having a daughter much later in life, I sort of, you know, I think I have a better understanding of like what they probably had to go through because I can't imagine doing what now at that age, especially. Um, so it wasn't anything like there was, and they were great people, and they tried really hard, and I never felt like unloved or there was like any
Mhm.
kind of that stuff. It was more of like there was just a lot of sometimes I think chaos and like and scattered and like but a lot of cool stuff and a lot of things that like there's so much of me. Like I think I told you a story that my father at the time was fresh out of the military and young and a little gruff because his dad was pretty rough on him. And he would take me on these like forever walks to do like errands or pick up the paper in the city. And he's
Mhm.
like a runner, 7, 8 miles a day. And I'd get tired. I'm a little kid. And by the end, I'm like, can you pick me up and carry me? And he'd say, no, we got to walk the last 3 blocks. And it got to the point where like, if I whined, he would add extra blocks. And I don't think it was out of any kind of, he's not a cruel person. What I think, even unintentionally, that he taught me, like I told you, is sort of like life is going to do that to you. Like as
Right.
you grow up, you're going to get that extra block or something isn't going to work out and you're going to have to go a little further than you thought. And whether you whine or cry, like it's okay to feel bad. Like you can feel anger and you can feel jealousy
Mhm.
and you can feel disappointment. But if you spend 10 minutes or waste time and energy thinking that it's going to change anything, that block is still going to be there. And the longer you sit and like make excuses or complain, it just makes more blocks. And I don't want to waste any time. Like this sucks. I'll deal with it. But let me get home. That kind of thing.
Right. That's actually such a good lesson.
Yeah, yeah,
You
really.
know?
I didn't appreciate it at the time, but I
Mhm.
think it very much has been so important so many times that's probably saved my butt.
It's funny how things that happen in childhood that you don't even really think of. I have this happen all the time. I'll think of something and I'll be like, "That was actually a really good lesson." Or I'll think the opposite. I'll be like, "Well, that was really messed up." But it just, like, pops up. But the ones that are like, "Oh, actually, that was really cool that I learned that, and I'm really grateful for that." I love when that happens. It's like, uh, it's, but you realize also, like, it's always been there in you. It's like,
Yeah.
it's made you who you are, and it's which has made you a very disciplined, hardworking person, which is so great. I mean, I think if everyone if there were I guess what I'm trying to get is, like, I don't understand the people that complain about getting in shape or any of that, or like how difficult it is. It's like, dude, you're just taking care of your health. Like, don't you want to like live a long time and like play with your kids and like be able to walk
Well,
when you're 90?
I think there's a lot of people, it's funny because like, physical discomfort doesn't bother me. Like I'm not
Yeah.
scared of even I don't know if I've told you this yet, but like in working with you and like training a little heavier, I've been fortunate. The only injuries I've ever had have been outside of the gym, and I've never torn anything and I'm terrified of like tearing a pec or a rotator cuff now, not
Yes.
because I'm the pain or having, it's more about like financially, this would be bad. I've got a family that depends on me.
Right.
Like I'm never really as much worried about, but I think for some people, they don't like any kind of pain or discomfort, even if it's minor. But maybe for us that are like almost like gravitate towards that or something that's
Yes.
challenging, being vulnerable is the flip side of that, where like you don't want to
Oh,
like to take a week off. I don't want to be sick, or I don't want to think that I can't do this for whatever reason, even if I know that I
right.
can. And we'll need like the Ukrainians are like more plates, and I'm doing it. It's that kind of the flip side of that maybe.
Right. That's true. It's like everyone's psychology is completely different. And, you know, that's the, that's actually what I wanted to ask you about too, is because like the idea that everyone's psyche is the sum of their learned experiences is something that I constantly think about. I think about it in ways to try to be more compassionate with people and ways to try to understand people. Um, to yeah, for those reasons. But does that? is that kind of why, like, is that similar to what it is that you're interested in with the human condition? It's like
Yeah,
why people
yeah.
do things and like why they are the way they are?
I think we're all so complex, and I think
Yeah.
too much of life is people trying to simplify, good, bad, right,
Yeah.
wrong, or just bad, sometimes I'll tell my wife, she'll tell me a story about something, and I'm like, wait a minute, and our upbringings and our things are completely different. Some things I
Right.
have, and some things she has that, but like I can see something and be like, no, but think about this, and it's like you can see why. I mean, that's also because I'm a filmmaker and I work, and you see these little subtext and nuances, but why people do something. You're
Right.
like, that person mad, they're scared, and this is why they're scared, right? Like this is,
Yeah.
which can come out as anger, but it's not. They're not just
Right.
like five fo fum. And so I think that is the kind of thing that I'm always interested in, because I think too much of us, we don't get anywhere if you don't need to get like crazy deep with everything, but I think we don't grow and change if we don't really pay attention, not just to ourselves, but other people too, and really
Yeah.
like empathy. Empathy isn't just like feeling bad for somebody, or it's really putting yourself into somebody else's shoes and being like,
Yeah.
just getting that perspective. And I think I feel better and stronger, and as a storyteller and as a person, when I allow myself to do that, than before I just sort of be like, okay, tie this up, and this is what it is.
Right. So we have a full understanding so you can be I completely agree with you. I that's what I like to, I always would get in trouble from people because I ask too many they'd say I'd ask too many questions because I'd be like, "Well, why do you feel that way?" Or like, or why is this upsetting you? You know, it's like I wanted to know the reasons why behind it pe- because we only have our own experiences and our own way of thinking, like, and it's totally different than other people. So it's like it's getting to know other people's way of thinking is really interesting to me.
Yeah. And people don't feel permission. Like you're saying, some people are scared. I think it's because when somebody usually says, why are you feeling this way? They hear it. And a lot of times it's sometimes even said with that like intonation, that it's like,
Oh
how
yeah.
dare you? You shouldn't be doing this, as opposed to like genuinely like, I'm curious. You
Yeah.
have permission. Tell me how you're feeling. They just hear like, why you feel like that? And it's like, no, no, no.
Oh yeah, that's
Genuinely,
true.
you feel like that. Like,
That's true. It depends on how not even so much how that you say it, but how they hear it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's a very good point. Um, but that's the thing is like you need to have the courage to be able to be a beginner because you're not going to get better at something unless you do that. Like nobody's great at everything at first.
And nobody, like, again, I think that's the hardest part. They only see somebody at the end of their story. So
Mhm.
somebody who's with you, who's never done any kind of physical fitness, is like,
Right.
oh, she's a beast and she's done this and and you started out just like everybody else. Like everybody, like you can have, again, some people are more genetically blessed and some people pick up things. Like some people are just naturally talented athletes or naturally talented musicians or whatever,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right. But everybody, even the most innate talent, has to start at a lower level than they are at the end of the story. And nobody, and I think I think when you start out and you're not quite good at something, and look, there are things I've been doing forever, and then I started doing things with you that I had never done or hadn't done in a long time,
Mhm.
or done that were very hard and not doing well. And I think even for me, there's a mind of like, why can't I do this thing like I do all this other stuff? Oh,
Right.
because I don't do this. So like
Right.
I here, and then like I think people are scared of that feeling, because rather than see it as an opportunity of like, I can't do this, but I'm going to, they see it as, I can't do this, I can't do this. And that's it. They
Right.
close the door.
Yeah.
And
But people you need to have the open mind to be able to continue learning and figuring it out. It's like you didn't know how to ride a bike when you first started riding a bike. You figured it
right, right, right.
Like you can learn anything. You just, have to put the work in for sure. Yeah, I think that's true. A lot of people like to stay in their comfort zones. Yeah. Did you have any questions for me that you wanted to ask?
Um, I'm curious, having been a performer, like a bodybuilder on the competition circuit and doing all this other stuff, and now being a coach.
Mhm.
just even like to kind of piggyback more on like the unhealthy like stuff that
Mhm.
can sometimes, you're saying there are people that they got you to where you needed to be for this competition, but probably either maybe not in the best way,
Right.
or they that's the only way, but it's not the best way, like overall, right? Do you find like as you work with such a variety of clients now,
Mhm.
ethically for you, like is it hard for you if somebody wants to do something and like it's very specific, like it's a competition or it's something, and they maybe have to go to a place that like overall maybe isn't healthy, or do you find yourself pulling back more from like for you?
So, I won't work with bodybuilders anymore. Like, because it's female bodybuilding is very unhealthy. You know,
Yeah,
you have to take a lot of supplements, and it's very unhealthy and very hard on the body. And there's things that I wish I would have known before I got into it, but also at the same time, it's like I was so excited about getting into it, and I think it's like one of those things that I happened to be at a really or happened to start at a really big bodybuilding gym where everyone was a bodybuilder. There was all these professional bodybuilders. Nobody was natural. It wasn't like I was around that. So that's just what I thought you did, and I had some good mentors in that area, but I take through everything I've learned through my own experiences, through working with people, through my own education, like self education with everything. No, I will not work with female bodybuilders anymore. If someone wants to do like a natural show, I'd work with them, but I just don't feel comfortable pushing them that far with the
sure.
supplements. And then also I think I'm a downer because, like, I was I just am like, I go through, like, every single risk possible with them, and I'm like, "This could happen, and this could happen, and this could happen," because I wish someone would have gone through that with me. So I wanna
Yeah.
be like the person that I wish I would have had, but for them, I think they're like, "What the like, dude, I just want you to help me with this," and I'm like, "But I need you to understand, it's almost like I'm going through, like, a liability waiver," It's
Sure,
like
sure, 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 sure.
could cut, every single thing, and I'll, like, include death in there just because I wanna, like, really, like, get it into their head. So yeah, I'm pretty and then I decided I wasn't gonna do that. So, but no, none of the clients I work with now, like, I need to push them because it's actually not necessary. The times that I was doing very unhealthy things. Sure, you do have to go to a certain level of unhealthiness for competing, but competing is in a very extreme sport. You get to
Sure,
a
sure, sure.
very extreme low body fat. It's definitely, and it's not even an attractive walking around look. You kind of look scary before like when I see people in person, like before a competition, my face is just like emaciated, like it's so thin. I look like I'm in a concentration camp, and like
Yeah, yeah,
veins
yeah.
are your whole body, it's like which I think is super cool, but it's it's not like a great look to walk around with. So, um, and so the fact that I don't work with competitors, that I never have to push anyone to those extremes. I learned a lot through the bad things I went through. Like, it wasn't that bad, but like the bad diets and stuff I went through, I learned a lot, if not more than the good ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Like, sometimes learning what not to do is a really big lesson to learn.
Well, I think that's like the positive thing too about like how you apply, like you learn, from not only from your own mistakes, but like you realize like even in the industry I'm in, people that I mentor now, like
Mhm.
I've been so fortunate that I've had people in my life and my career that have really like stepped in and either mentored or helped me out when I really needed it. And I've
Yeah.
also been in a position where I wish I had had something, and I
Right.
try to provide that where it's like, even if I know that's the thing too, I'm sure you have this with some clients too, even if I know they're not necessarily going to listen and maybe they have to learn some of the same mistakes, that's
Mhm.
just part of life. But I know that at least I'm giving them that option of like, and sometimes they
Right.
take it. I think, but I think that's a positive because I think people get bitter too. Like whether, like when life happens to you and you, like, again, this idea of like connection and loneliness is part of it too, is that like things happen and you make choices, right? Like not
Right.
just like, do I move forward and grow from this? Or do I like close myself off and say, well, I'm done with that and I'm done with this and this person and
Right.
da da da. or people in general or whatever, right?
Right.
And I think that you're able to apply things constructively, not just for yourself, but for clients and other things. Like I think that's
Mhm.
so important, not just for them, but like for you to grow as a person too, and be like, this is why this is the way it is. But this is also, if you're going to do this, know this road is here, right? Like this is what's going to
Right.
happen.
Well, that's the thing is I also wanted that's the thing is that's why I kind of I grappled with like whether or not I wanted to say I won't train women bodybuilders because I was like, well, maybe I can be like a good role model for them. I know I could be a good role model for them and get them to there, but I just don't feel comfortable with, you know, some of the things you have to do. So I will, I'll be more of like I'll be their friend and they can come to me anytime and ask me questions, but like I just don't want to be involved in that after after so long, you know? But in regards to getting people in like really really good shape, like getting someone shredded, getting especially well no men and women, but like I mainly work with men actually. And it's you can get shredded in a very in a very healthy way. Like there's not a I don't there's no reason to do it in an unhealthy way. You can do it while you're yeah, there's absolutely no reason you need to do it in a healthy way, and it actually you'll get in better shape faster by doing it in a healthy way. So, as we get into the last, dieting part of as for you, you'll learn this
Yes, yes,
because
yes, yes.
we've been priming your metabolism. Well, we put on a lot of muscle. You've done such a great job of that. Oh shit, that's what I wanted to ask you too. Have you what gone further than what you thought you would with in return regards to building muscle, or about the
Yeah,
same?
yeah. It's funny because like like when you're smaller, because I've always just been so naturally big. Like as a kid, I was
Right.
tall. I mean, I'm 6'3", and like I've always been stocky. Whatever size or shape I was in, I was always just like I was, and so I think when I got ridiculously small, like when I hit 190 and still had a little muscle,
Mhm.
I think for a while I'd also tricked myself because you don't, like they say, like even like when we do the competition, like you look bigger the leaner you get, the smaller you get.
Right.
Like
Right.
even if you're say not as big as you were, carrying around some more body fat or doing something else like that, you visually like look bigger because you don't have anything else.
Right.
And I think
Especially
for
in photos.
yes, yes, oh, definitely in
Mhm.
photos, and that's the whole. You really start living in that reality, and
Yeah.
then so I think look now being able to look at say like photos from a couple of years ago and like especially when like other health things were going on, how like I I don't I'm like, oh, okay, I can actually see that wasn't very healthy, or that I
Right.
don't really like the way that looks, or oh, I actually do have a little bit more muscle now, even if it doesn't show the way it did there when you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that again, that kind of understanding. So I think the surprise for me was to be like not being able to see it in a certain way, but
Right.
knowing it's there through you telling me and pointing it out, or just physically being able to do things that like, I'd gotten into like a more like lower weight, high rep and a lot of
Right.
cardio kind of like toning, like that
Yeah.
BS. Or rather than just being able to, because I was always somewhat strong. But now
Mhm.
it's like I think physically just even doing certain things, I feel a lot more strength that I used to have, but I kind of forgot that I had.
Right. Okay. And um what has been the best part of this experience for you so far?
Um, Honestly, it's working with you because I feel like I think it's again, I think so much of life is like the same reason I said like when we started talking like that being a director, I like working with people.
Yeah.
I think like I at the gym, I've had a few like buddies you because you have the same schedule, you work out with sometimes the same people and maybe they'll give you a spot, but I've never
Right.
had like a gym buddy. I'm a solo, like I like to go in, get it done, get out.
Yeah.
But doing this is kind of like having like you're not there with me. Like we've never
Yeah.
met in person. It feels like you're there with me. Like I'm doing something. I'm
Right.
like watching. Like
Yeah.
or like I want where I'm going to send her. She's going to ask for this video, so I better do this.
Yeah.
And it's great because like I think it takes like even when I've asked you, I've never questioned like because I don't think you're telling me something that's right or I don't believe it. It's always like maybe I'm trying to like get a secret sauce out of you that you can't quite give me the thing of, but like to trust that like you're saying do this and I'm gonna just like, all right, I'm gonna do it. Like I told my wife, I said, you know, Christine tells me do this, this, this. I do it, I crush it, I go home. And it's simple and it's almost like at time the beginning was like too simple for me where I'm like, is this is you know, this is it today? Like it
Okay.
seems hard, not hard, but like simple in that like I'm like, shouldn't I be like crawling home or shouldn't I be like
Right.
like
It's
that?
not
And
as complicated as you thought it would be, yeah.
yeah, and in some ways, it's probably more like I would again if I had to pick between like a biking 40 miles for like 2 hours or doing like my first attempt at like squats with you properly,
Yeah.
I probably would pick the 2 hours because
Oh,
like as hard as that is, that was more challenging to me, and I was like I
yeah.
had to be like why because that's challenging to me. This I can do because I've trained myself to
Right,
do it
right.
and getting over that. So working with you, that to me, like just having somebody that you trust, that you know knows what they're talking about, that you feel is ethical, that you feel that you respect, that you can just do what they say. Like that's the best part of it. I think.